So मेरी lifetime में तो होना नहीं है. So then I said, why don't I shift to creating carbon sinks, solving the problem from like ऐसे नहीं ऐसे.
Since you're saying it's going to take a decade for cleaners, I just wanted to ask in general.
From the time we start, we haven't even started.
We haven't even started.
We haven't even started. From the time we start.
Let's start, please. Is my frame okay? मैं थोड़ा पीछे होके बैठी हूँ आज, इसके लिए पूछ रही हूँ. It's fine, right? I'm glad.
Whatever. And I'll tell you my own experience. I mean,
Yes.
Because I invested in a wind asset.
Air pollution, something that we all have been suffering from. You know, the sight of people coughing, falling sick, all of this has become the new normal. And sometimes people don't even understand the kind of health hazard this has and the impact it has on people's health. But what can you do about it? Not only that, what happens to our environment and our climate because of the things that we do? Is there a solution to that? We have someone joining us today who will be talking all about this. Jai Dhar Gupta, the founder and CEO of Nirvana Being, is joining us now. Jai, a pleasure to have you on the podcast with us. But I think you actually wear a lot of hats. This was just not the introduction for you. Tell us more about that.
It's been a very interesting journey, Sonal. I was always inclined towards nature and the environment. I think from the age of 6, when I visited my first tiger reserve, Jim Corbett Park, for that matter. But then in 2013, when I got diagnosed with bronchial asthma, that was a big turning point in my life. That's when I stopped greenwashing and kind of actually started working on real solutions for air pollution, to reverse air pollution, on climate change, to start creating carbon sinks. So, 2013, 11 years, it's been a big turning, big turning event in my life. Me getting impacted by air pollution.
And that's when you realized how problematic this problem is.
Well, I became conscious, right? I was always sensitized, but I became conscious. I realized just a small thing, there's only 3 raw materials our human body needs: food, water, and air. There's no 4th raw material. And we are so particular about our food and water, right? And we consume maximum 8 to 10 liters of food and water combined in a day. Well, we consume 12,000 liters of air in a day, okay? Even if you weigh 12,000 liters of air, it's 14 kilograms, more than your food and water combined. And if your air is toxic, you have your poison going into your body with every breath. And it's involuntary, right? It's not like you can stop breathing. So whatever we are creating around us, these toxic environments, we're going to pay. We're going to pay in the form of, morbidity and mortality. So that's the reality. And the Nirvana Being came about from this because I was yelling from the top of my roof saying, hey, guys, we are off the charts. Delhi, Mumbai, all our... we have 132 non-attainment cities as per our National Clean Air Program. And that list could very well be 1,320 because we have no monitoring infrastructure. Where you don't have air quality monitors, ambient monitors to monitor what's actually going on in ambient air, those cities can't even be part of the National Clean Air Program. But I can tell you our habits are so pathetic. We all are so good at protecting our boundaries. कि ये तो मेरी दीवार है, मेरा घर है, so इसके अंदर सब स्वच्छ होगा, and I'm going to throw my kura, off my wall. Well, air pollution doesn't understand boundaries. Look at Delhi. We have farm fires in Punjab, and we get smoked and get stuck in a gas chamber every November. So air pollution doesn't understand boundaries. So the whole theory that we have, कि ये तो मेरी boundary है, and I'm going to keep everything beautiful and clean there, it doesn't work with air. Air's everywhere. Whatever's outside is inside, and then inside your homes or offices, we've got a bigger problem. Let's just say it's 5 to 10 times bigger, your indoor problem. That's another myth that people have. Ki, air pollution to bahar hai. Like we are so, good inside. Look at my inside space. It's all clean. I can't. The other problem with air pollution is it's invisible. So it's not like water pollution where you see like something in your water.
And it's dirty. You
Yeah,
cannot just see it.
yeah. So I mean, the biggest kind of pollutant that we have, and it's directly due to combustion. It's called PM 2.5. Particulate matter that's smaller than 2.5 microns. I mean, this is something that's a toxin. It's a carcinogen, and it's directly from combustion. It's that soot that collects on your ceiling fan.
Yes.
Okay. Or if you're in a movie theater, you can actually see it in the light of the projector, or in the winter time, and when the headlights of your car. PM 2. Why tweet PM 2.5? Because the natural filters of our body will filter anything larger than 2.5 microns. Right here, when I clear my throat, I'm clearing particles that are larger than 2.5 microns. But anything smaller than 2.5 microns enters our body through our respiratory pathways, goes into the lungs, and just the same way that oxygen is absorbed into our bloodstream through the alveoli, these PM 2.5 or these toxin, these carcinogenic black carbon particles enter our bloodstream through the alveoli. And they travel to our heart, they travel to our brain. I mean, now there's so many studies on how air pollution causes diabetes, hypertension, depression, heart disease, autoimmune disease, infertility. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, other than gastro issues, it's basically
everything that could.
It's almost everything. And of course, cancers, lung cancer is a big one. COPD, respiratory is first, right? If you're suffering from allergies, if you're suffering from headaches, people think that, धूप लग गई होगी या पानी कम पी लिया होगा. But air is constant. You need 12. You take 24,000 breaths in a day, half a liter approximately with each breath. So what I've been talking about since I got diagnosed with bronchial asthma is really consciousness about our breath. And that's how Nirvana Being came about. It stems from Buddhism, which means to become conscious. And we've been really, I shouldn't use the word preaching, but we really are that, you are what you breathe. You're not what you drink, you're not what you eat, you are what you breathe. Because it's the largest kind of constant raw material that's going into your body, and you pretty much have no control over, your air around you.
Wow, those were some alarming stats and things that you said, and it's important to be aware of that. When we talk about higher AQI levels every winter, be it in Delhi, and now even people in Mumbai have started talking about it, and at times we are like, oh my God, what's happening? You get out of your car or your homes and you have that feeling in your throat, as you just said, because maybe our lungs or our body is not able to filter that for us. Have you seen this problem getting bigger and bigger in last 11 years since the time you actually realized? Because earlier people never spoke about air pollution as a big problem. It was only when winters came by and stubble burning happened.
There are very few people who understand the science of air, okay? And even in this conversation, we're talking about AQI, which is kind of ambient conditions. We're talking about PM 2.5, which is also, which is both outdoors and indoors. You have sources of, PM 2.5 from combustion that are outdoors. Your vehicles, industry, biomass burning, waste burning, and things like that. But inside your homes, the largest kind of combustion source is your kitchen, right? And, we guys do all these tadka and making parothas and, taloing, pakoras and puris. I mean, it's horrible inside the house. I mean, 5 to 10 times worse than what's outside.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. So your homes are not good. And the other bigger problem that we are seeing in our indoor spaces, and that problem gets magnified in a place like Mumbai, where we're sitting right now, is carbon dioxide. So our spaces, whether it's our classrooms where children are studying, whether it's our bedrooms where we are sleeping with split ACs, there is no ventilation. So what that means is that we are just consuming all the oxygen in the room, and we are just rebreathing, carbon dioxide. And the ambient level, I'm sorry, I'm going to get a little technical here.
No, please tell me.
Because people need to understand this and understand, especially parents need to understand if they're sending their children to school, if the classrooms don't have ventilation, there's no point of sending your child to school. Because the child is not learning anything. They're practically brain dead in classrooms. Okay, so when people wake up in the morning and if they don't feel fresh, or if they feel sluggish, it's because, when you went to bed in the evening and you shut your room door and turned on your beautiful split AC, the level of carbon dioxide in your room was probably about 400 to 600 parts per million, right? And you shut your door, of course, right? Because you have to kind of close yourself in a box for thermal comfort that comes from that air conditioner. But when you wake up in the morning, that level of carbon dioxide now is over 2000. And that's assuming that one or two people are sleeping in the room. If it's more than that, or if it's a classroom where it's 30, 40 children, the carbon dioxide levels are off the charts. It's over 4,000. I mean, the children are kind of trembling like this at those kind of carbon dioxide levels, and they're brain dead. That's not an environment to learn, because you cannot be alert, you cannot be focused. And those are the environments in which our children learn. And those are the environments in which our children are giving their exams and so on and so forth. I mean, I used to think, like, why in meeting rooms and boardrooms and meeting rooms, why I needed so much coffee. Why in a car, when you're 2-3 people traveling and all your windows are rolled up, why do you start nodding? It's because the carbon dioxide levels are rising. Your brain is just shutting down. So I mean, our indoor environments are a mess, and I really thought that COVID would kind of opened up that kimono, that we need ventilation. You cannot have biocontaminants like in a school. If you've got a split AC or a cassette AC in a classroom, and 30, 40 children are in that classroom, and if one child has a cold, everybody's going to get sick, right? And then those kids take whatever,
Leaves,
that home, and everybody at home
Everyone
gets sick,
gets
right? It's because there is no ventilation. Every child is kind of breathing, every other child's exhaled air. So these are not, environments built for health and safety or any kind of well-being. So this is the work, that we've been doing at Nirvana Being, and we have some fantastic solutions, it's been so exciting, actually. I mean, let me just tell you, I mean, the subject of air is just so exciting when you get into the nitty-gritties of it. When you start dissecting, we do surveys of, places where, embassies, offices, homes, people call us. Unfortunately, they call us when somebody has cancer or somebody has, advanced stage COPD or heart disease or whatever. But prevention is the best way to address this problem.
So how to prevent it? You said that kitchen is one of the hot spots when it comes to air pollution.
Right.
You said schools are. I think in your era or my era, we didn't have ACs in our classrooms. I
Right.
saw a lot of ventilation.
Open windows. Because we didn't have this AQI
We
problem.
did not have it.
Yeah.
And you also said that you thought it'll get solved after COVID. But the problem that happened after COVID is more cars came on the roads. And
Yeah.
even ventilation was basically air which is not very clean. So what is the solution to this?
No, so we have ventilation solutions that filter the air on the way in. So think of it as a window that's actually filtering the air on the way in. So it's a mechanical window
Okay.
that has filters and fans that are only pumping in, filtered fresh air.
Okay.
And we have solutions that will cool or heat the air as well, depending on the time of the year. Because, you certainly don't want air coming in at, 36 or 38 degrees if it's summertime.
Okay.
We've got other problems as well. So all the construction materials that we use, these low-cost, new-age construction materials, whether it's ceramic tiles or the beautiful paints and the varnishes and the polishes and the adhesives, they all off-gas. And they all off-gas more in higher temperatures. And they will off-gas for 30, 40, 50 years. So we are just sitting ducks. And Sonal, just think about it. Our living spaces or our working spaces are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They're not getting bigger. So we are really worse than those, those caged animals in zoos.
Oh my God.
Really, we are worse than those caged animals in zoos. So I don't know where we are going with this, because this is not progress. This is, our quality of life is going down and down and down. And certainly, the uber rich are making these beautiful homes that are 10,000 square feet or 25,000 square feet. Well, the problem with that is, it's just a obnoxious carbon footprint, for no reason, because then you gotta, create thermal comfort and all of that. So, I mean, there are standards and regulations by the Indian Society of Heating, Cooling, for kind of indoor spaces. it's unfortunate because nobody's following those regulations.
I don't think people are aware that there are regulations like that. I
So
don't think most of them are.
everybody's following kind of a low cost format कि ये घिसा put up formula है चल रहा है इतने सालों से वो चलाते रहो. And really I thought COVID would be a turning point where people would say no, we have to put our foot down, we have to follow some regulations and standards, health and safety compliance. But unfortunately, most people either dial in because they've got a child who's constantly on a nebulizer, or they've got a parent who's got heart disease or COPD or lung cancer, where it's like, okay, you're going to give that person some relief, but it's too little, too late.
So, when you say that you have products or you have solutions, then somebody can just put it on the window to ensure that even the ventilation has clean air.
Yeah.
Not everyone can afford it, or not everyone would be aware of it. So, on a macro level, how can the situation be solved? Do you think we have not started in that direction? And, what would the idea there be? Say, if the government has to do it today, aaj hame ensure karna hai that there should not be any air pollution from here on. What should they do?
What should the government do, or what should
Anyone,
citizens do?
Both of them. It's an equal responsibility.
Let me talk about both.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as government is concerned, the government can do very simple things. We know what the sources of pollution are. Okay. We know कि कहाँ combustion होता है. Industry, vehicles, biomass burning. People who light chulas because they can't afford LPG gas cylinders. Waste burning. So we kind of know the sources of emissions, right? The government has to just become ruthless in reducing those emissions at the source. Okay, to give you an example, in China, from North China around Beijing, they had a big air pollution problem. They moved all polluting industry out of North China. So all the guys that had the big boilers that were burning coal or whatever, or burning anything, they were all moved out of northern China. Then the Beijing government was so proactive. They realized that there are about 2.5 million people in Beijing who are working for the central government, and they said, why does the central government need to be inside the city's capital? So they created a whole satellite, essentially moved all these workers, 2.5 million people, 32 kilometers away from Beijing. Reverse urbanization. Okay, let me just tell you that the problem of air pollution or any environmental problem in urban India, the core issues are poverty and urbanization.
I was just going to come to that.
We have no opportunity in rural India. We don't need smart cities because your smart cities can never become smart with the numbers of people flowing in from rural India. We need smart villages. Okay? There is nothing happening in our villages. You go into our villages, there is no youngster left in those villages. Okay? There are just old people who are waiting to die. All their children, grandchildren, everybody is coming to these cities. That's a problem, and that's an environmental problem. I'm talking about it not for political reasons, I'm talking about it from environmental reasons. Our cities just cannot handle that kind of stress, okay? We cannot handle the sewerage, we don't have the water, we don't have the electricity. Every new person that comes into our cities has their own carbon footprint, and our cities are already unviable for human habitation. And look at it. You don't have food, water, or air available in the city. Clean, conditions for human habitation. So, from the government side, I think what the government should be doing is more awareness. I think what the government should be doing is incentivizing good behavior and penalizing bad behavior. Okay, having a car is a privilege. I think, the more polluting vehicles like diesel vehicles have the emissions. One diesel vehicle has the emissions of 9 petrol vehicles. So I don't even understand why there should be a passenger vehicle with diesel fuel. Okay. Those times are gone 20, 30 years ago when we couldn't provide electricity and we had to subsidize diesel ki aapka generator chalega ya farmer ka water pump chalega so that they can irrigate and all of that. So I think we need to kind of catch up with those fundas where we say like diesel in passenger vehicles like makes no sense. Okay. petrol hybrids, or hybrids with biofuels. The cars need to get into that direction, and the diesel vehicles need to they need to just go away. They need to be extinct now. So the government just needs to dial in and make those kind of decisions. If it's in a day with an AQI of more than 150, what stops the government from saying, hey, public transportation is free today? All passenger vehicles are banned and public transportation is free for the day. These are things, that other countries do. And these are things that work. This is what I'm talking about, incentivizing good behavior and penalizing bad behavior. Right now, there is no regulation. I mean, I don't even go into the direction of, single-use plastic and microplastics and all of that, because that's another whole area in itself. So that's the role of government. As far as normal citizens are concerned, I think citizens really need to become a voice. I mean, we're currently in the midst of a Lok Sabha election, and nobody's demanding clean air. And if you don't demand clean air, I mean, the form of governance that we have in our country, there is absolutely no focus on health and environment. Nobody cares about health and environment. This entire election is being run on, again, on religion and freebies and all the things that, shouldn't really matter. But air matters, because, if you're not breathing, forget good air, even moderate air. You're looking at tons of morbidity and mortality. And, why do we want to live a compromised life? I mean, why would we not be interested in a better quality of life? Okay, forget about, somebody who's like me, but my children or my children's children. Because, the path that we're on, this, I think we've lost humanity. I mean, in our... I think in our kind of goals of greed and selfishness, I think, I keep getting invited to talk about sustainability. I don't even think the problem is sustainability. I think the problem is that we humans have lost touch with humanity. So, I mean, I think that's the core issue. So, I think my message for citizens is that, become a voice, ask for clean air. I don't think there's anything out there that's, means more for you and your family and your loved ones than just being able to breathe clean air.
I'm sorry, but there's so many questions coming to me on whatever you just said. First is when you said they should demand clean air. Is it a right for every citizen to be able to breathe clean air? Is it documented somewhere?
Of course, it's a right. I mean, if you look at other countries, there are so many instances of people going to court in countries across the world and saying, this is mass genocide. I mean, if you look at kind of North India, because we have a more severe winter in North India, and I'm talking about, from Punjab all the way to West Bengal, along that GT Karnal road, where, I would say about 600 million of the population of India lives on that belt. All the industries there, our rivers are there. It's smoked from October to March. I mean, the kind of morbidity, mortality we're talking about, the kind of stress on our treasury we're talking about from the morbidity and mortality. I don't know who's doing the math on that. And why these people are not voting for clean air, why they're not raising their voice, I don't understand. And there isn't even, even cities like Allahabad don't even have an air quality monitor. So people just in the winters think, it's such a nice winter morning. It's, dhund hai, jada aa gaya hai. And I'm like, dude, it's October. There's no jada in October, Get a reality check. This is air pollution. So, yeah, I mean, it's not an easy subject because, air is invisible. And unless you can see the problem, you're not cognizant of it. And I think COVID kind of taught us, how bad things can move through the air. But people have forgotten. I mean, our memories are so short. I mean, we all have people we lost in our lives, but, our memories are so short that, it's like...
I think that's the reality. And when you're talking about reality, I'm not being the devil's advocate. I'm just talking about practical issues. When you say China is able to do something and move their citizens or laborers to another city altogether, it's a developed country. Do you think we have that much capacity, that much money to be able to do that, to stop development at the cost of ensuring that the air is good? Because there's a lot of development happening in the country right now. So the argument that people come up with is development chahiye, so you'll have to, sacrifice for a bit. Do you think that's a valid argument?
You know, I'm an environmentalist and I'm an entrepreneur as well. So I don't think I have a vested interest in
Yeah, yeah.
development, like the country not growing or developing. Okay. I think it's about consciousness and it's about sensitizing people. Okay. It cannot be like a one trick pony where we develop and compromise the quality of our life and increase morbidity and mortality. I think that's what I'm talking about. I think developed nations also develop further, but they don't compromise the quality of life. They don't degrade the environments and natural habitats. And what the path that we are following, my God, I mean, I'm so scared. I mean, I am spending a lot of time lately in forests, at least the last 3 4 years, in tiger reserves and a lot of our very rich biodiverse environments, and I'm so scared. I'm so scared that all of this is going to disappear within my lifetime. I mean, and that's what people need to dial in to, because what are we going to leave for future generations? And it's all motivated by greed and selfish interests.
And we've seen a lot of conversations. You spoke about Jim Corbett that you visited when you were a kid, and now we have got hearings on that where they've told people that your greed is killing forests. And from personal experience, I recently went to Ranthambore and I just saw that people are not respecting wildlife. Like, they do not, or for that matter,
It
they
breaks
just.
my heart how we treat those poor tigers. How 100 cars surround the animal, don't allow it the path to even kind of move. Uh,
It's the sad reality. And while we are talking about that, the other sad reality is that we do not have a good public transportation infrastructure in place. So while we are talking about government, ensuring good behavior or incentivizing good behavior, I don't think if it happens in Mumbai, people will go ahead and use public transport because it's already so crowded. You think that is one place to make your cities walkable, to make your cities
yeah.
better in terms of public transportation?
No, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I enjoy when I travel is just walking. We don't have
Walkable
pedestrian
footpaths,
walkways.
yeah.
We don't have the infrastructure to walk or bicycle in our cities. And actually, here in Mumbai and especially Pune, I mean, there's such a large community of people who like to, trek and hike and
Yeah.
bike and all of those things. I mean, and it's really sad. I mean, it's a failure of urban design. Whoever has designed these cities, I mean, I don't know if it's a failure of urban design or it's the automobile lobby. I don't know what's at play, but our cities are not being designed, in the interests of people, and we people are the ones paying the taxes. So become a voice. Become a voice. I mean, everything can be redesigned. We need to become a voice, and we need to kind of bring in leaders who are themselves sensitized and understand these issues and are reacting to the demands of the people. Because I don't understand, how we can just say, hey, this is not my problem. Somebody else will fix it. Nobody else will fix it unless you demand something. I mean, I have done so many kind of crazy things in Delhi in terms of, events at Jantar Mantar or India Gate, or getting children out and, interacting with politicians. I mean, that's how clean I got into the manifestos of all the parties in Delhi. Because we made people go, we made children, write letters to the chief minister and say, hey, we want to be able to breathe. And this problem is universal. I mean, anywhere you go in India, I can tell you there would be less than 10% of our population that breathes moderate air in India. It's a mess everywhere. Our habits are so bad.
It's not something nice to hear at all. But if we start today, considering whatever you have advised to the government, the conversations that you had earlier, you are saying we have not really started our fight against air pollution. But if we do today, how long before it gets better?
So, it's interesting, because the manifesto from the 2020 election of Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi, I'm sorry, I always pick on them, but they are the only party who's elected who promised clean air. And it's been a lot of greenwashing. We'll build a smog tower, we'll red lights, we'll ask people to turn off their engines and all of that. it's just too little, and it's all it's not gonna move the needle. You need to attack the sources of emissions, and you need to be ruthless about it. Okay. And in a bigger picture, I mean, we just have to stop this rapid urbanization, because if everybody starts to run to the cities for livelihood, it doesn't matter what you do in the city, you'll always be behind the ball.
That's true.
Okay. So this snowball effect has, I don't know how it's going to happen, but me personally, try and spend less and less time in the cities now, because I don't think that ball can slow down or be reversed, because the government is doing nothing to create opportunity in rural India.
That's a unanimous opinion. I have spoken to a lot of people on the podcast otherwise, and they're all talking about how you need to develop rural infrastructure to ensure that population is dispersed, at a balanced level, because cities are taking too much pressure right now, and it's not ensuring good quality of life anywhere.
Yeah.
That-
I mean, the only jobs that exist in rural India are few
Farming.
government jobs. Of
In
course,
terms of, yeah,
I don't
profession.
even know if farming is a viable kind of profession
Yeah.
anymore. With the families growing and the land parcels becoming smaller and smaller. But other than that, the government has a few kind of odd government jobs where the guys just sit and do nothing. And I mean, people are happy to work for 5,000-6,000 rupees a month. So no young
Yeah.
person wants to be in rural India.
So we need to develop that to ensure that there's balance approach towards everything. I do get that point. You briefly also mentioned that you've been spending a lot of time in forests. What's that all about? And do you think that is one solution to the air pollution problem that we are facing? More forests? And are we doing that in the country?
So, our forest cover has been reducing. Of course, we are constantly encroaching on the forests. And why that's important is that, the forests of this country, and, we're actually pretty well endowed with green cover in this country. So, currently 24% of India is forest cover. Again, why it's important is that forests are a carbon sink. Okay. So they absorb carbon from the air. And, the species in the forest, that's another one. That's another topic I care about, is loss of species or reversing loss of species. Of course, we can't bring back extinct species, but we have so many species that are on the verge of extinction. Okay. And that's just crazy to just think that, we are just blindly, because of greed or selfishness, we are converting all these lands into agricultural lands. The problem of cattle is such a big problem, because every forest I go to, there's cattle of the Gujars and the villagers around, that communities that live in the buffer zones. For every human there, in these communities or these villages, they have 3 cattle. Okay. And this cattle is basically looting the forest, I should say. Even those communities they go into the forest for all their wood and food and berries and those kinds of things. The cattle is going in to eat all these botanical medicinal plants. So just imagine, if there's 1 crore people, I'm sure it's a lot more, then there's 3 crore animals that are constantly going and degrading the forests every day. Okay. And that's why we're starting to see more human animal conflict as well, because the animals are also kind of saying, okay,
Don't.
just back
Yeah.
off. It's like somebody coming into your house and looting you every day. At some point you're going to be like, okay, you got to stop. I got no space for myself here now. I got to protect my own domain. So all these problems all comes back to the same core issue. Us humans almost separating ourselves from nature, and I think people need to realize that humans are also nature. And we need to live with nature, and we need to preserve nature, because we are nature.
Yeah.
In destroying nature, we are destroying ourselves. And I think that's something to kind of think about as well. So
Forest thing. Or would you like some water, by
no,
the way?
no, I'm good. This is fun.
Yeah.
I realized during COVID that this whole fight to reverse air pollution, while the government servants were, the leadership or the politicians were actually listening, the citizens don't care, or the citizens don't think it's their problem. But I think this is a public-private partnership, and for me, when I started this journey of activism as a clean air activist in 2013, I thought the parents would be so emotional, right? Like, which parent wants their child to be breathing, toxic, carcinogenic air on a daily basis, and 12,000 liters of it? But people really haven't kind of come on board, and maybe because there's very little understanding about this problem. There's very little awareness. And so I decided, that since I failed as a clean air activist, I really have.
Do not say that.
In 10 years, I think we've done nothing. I mean, yes, one did the odd even in Delhi, and one moved the like, you had the Mumbai marathon, we had the Delhi half marathon. It used to be Airtel, now it's Vedanta or whatever. We moved it from November to October when the AQI is less. I went to the court and I said, look at the data on how many people have a cardiac arrest at this event. And these are fit people. These are healthy, fit people. Okay? Do the math. I mean, this makes no sense to make people run in AQI over 400. I mean, it's like smoking like 200 cigarettes in 2 hours.
Oh my God.
Running in an AQI of 400. It's like it's absolute madness. And 30,000 people. So the court kind of got it. And even the sponsors like Airtel was like, holy shit, we're out of here. So they said, we don't even want our name associated with this. And then Vedanta surprisingly kind of stepped in. So even corporates don't get it. We have all these events where there should be at least some awareness, like, okay, AQI is this, run at your own risk, sink or swim or whatever, but there's no awareness. There's no awareness. I mean, companies are sponsoring, and sports management companies are like having these events. Even the Mumbai Marathon, when it happened, in January, I mean, AQI is the worst. It was a 200 plus AQI day, but nobody's talking about these issues. So, we're talking about, we coined this term responsible sport. Okay. It's like, how can you just blindly keep doing things just because they were done like that 20, 30, 40 years ago? The conditions are nowhere close to what they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. We've ruined everything. And now whatever we do, it needs to be done with, you need to be sensitized and you need to be aware. And some people are, but like 99.99% of the people aren't. Because again, we don't have leadership in our health ministry. We don't have leadership in our education ministry. We don't have leadership in our sports ministry. We have nobody talking about these things. A Kejriwal or a Modi can't be talking about these things. Where is the rest of the leadership in this country? There's nobody stepping up and talking about real issues that affect you and me. And that's a problem. And that's why people need to step up. People like you and me need to step up and say, okay, do I want to live like this? Is this the quality of life I desire? Anyway, back to...
But no, I really think the problem is when people do not consider it as an important event in their life.
Yeah.
For them, it is getting up early, earning something, and coming back, sending the kids to the school. So I don't think it comes in the priority list till the time they're actually hit by it.
I agree.
I'm just saying that's the sad reality. When you said 99.9% people do not think about it, only, the limited population is, I think it doesn't even fall in the priority list as much.
No, I mean, and that's why we're doing this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my tribe is very, very small, and we need to grow this tribe. We need to sensitize people.
Absolutely.
And unless this tribe, becomes bigger, I mean, we're just looking at a bigger problem and a bigger problem and a bigger problem. And I mean, that's, when we talk about climate reality, when we talk about climate change, that's what this is, right? I mean, air pollution ties in completely to climate change. I mean, it's due to combustion and, encroaching on our forests and so on. So we're upsetting that carbon cycle. So we're increasing the sources of emissions and we're reducing our carbon sinks. So we're cutting into this carbon cycle from both ends. So you're upsetting the balance, right? That's why your temperatures are rising. So air pollution and climate reality are kind of synonymous.
They are, and that's your right. As you said, we need to have the balance there. What plans with forests now? You have some interesting and exciting plans there.
So I decided to kind of run an experiment due to COVID because it was just such a good time to not be in a city and be away from people and closer to animals. So, like you have private forest reserves in Africa, like South Africa and stuff. I started buying up lands in the buffer zone of the Rajaji Tiger Reserve. And we started surveying those forests and identifying species of flora, so trees, shrubs, and grasses that were rare and endangered. So that involves seed collection, germinating those seeds, creating, saplings and whatnot. So that started in 2021. So it's called the Rajaji Ragati Biosphere. That's my first project, which is in Uttarakhand between Haridwar and Dehradun. And it's been such a rewarding journey. I mean, to see, if you've seen the movie Avatar, where
Yeah.
under the Ava tree, when the Navi walk, the ground lights up.
Yeah.
My ground lights up.
Oh, wow.
It's insane. Now we have so much biodiversity in the ground that when you walk, there's so much living being in the ground that everything is kind of clearing the path for you. So you see the ground kind of lighting up. It's been an insanely rewarding experience, to create a forest. One day I'm going to write a book about it, honest with you. But, I like to use the words, the network of mutuality, how everything is kind of interdependent on each other. So we started kind of planting this stuff, and, the herbivores came, the cheetahs and the nilgai and the sambars and the hare. And then, now as our trees have gotten bigger, firstly there were very, very little birds that used to come. Now that our trees can support bigger birds, now the birds have gotten bigger. We've been getting leopards that come and visit us. We have elephants coming thrice a week. The tiger visits us, once in 6 months. So we have camera traps everywhere.
Amazing.
And we drone surveys of our forest, our efforts every month to kind of map where we are. And we're adding kind of acoustical recording equipment to measure the sounds in the forest. We want to see year to year, our species, the sounds from certain species. Is it going up? Is it going down? If it's going down, why is it going down? If it's going too far up, then, is the predator that, feeds on that species, is something wrong with, so we're just trying to understand what's going on in our forest. So hugely exciting. So, I started doing this in Uttarakhand. It's called the Rajaji Ragati Biosphere. I really wanted to become a chowkidar of the forest. I wanted to understand how nature works. I wanted to reconnect. And Sonal, I feel like the wealthiest person in this country. I'm serious. And what's been so amazing to see is that if we humans just kind of do this much, okay, to just preserve, okay, fine, we made nature as well, but mainly the task is just preserving nature.
It.
Oh my God, nature is so powerful. It's so powerful. I mean, we do this much and nature does this much. I mean, you just need to kind of create that, okay, like I'm going to protect you, with my life. And that's it. I mean, nature will respond like magic. And it's been magic. It's been exponential.
I can see that magic on your face and the smile and the expressions that you have. And I hope you keep getting wealthier with whatever you're doing.
Thank you.
And more power to you. Thank you so much for this conversation. I could go on and on, but again, we are short on time. But thank you so much, Jay, for being with us today, giving us those insights and making people understand that it's your right to breathe fresh air. You don't have to shy away from asking for that right. And it's our government's and our responsibility to ensure that we have clean air. Thank you. It was a pleasure and an eye-opening session for me as well. Thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome. Thanks for your time.
Okay, all right. I hope all of you also understood that it's your right to breathe fresh air. Ask for it and always be very mindful of what you are doing to the nature as well. As Jay said, you give this much, you'll get back 100 times of what you gave to the nature. Thank you so much for joining in today into this podcast, and keep writing to us with respect to the conversations you want us to have on this show, and keep tuning in. Thank you so much.